Welcome to the Knighthood Podcast, a comprehensive weekly analysis of the Newcastle Knights 2024 NRL season, brought to you by Michael and James. So fire up and let's go. Hey James, you fired up?
I'm fired up. It was it was a win, and we're alive. It's good. It's a good feeling. All hail Jack Cogger. So
all hail Jack Cogger.
Bring it on. Should be a good night.
Should be a good night. And look, we've dished out some criticism to the coach and to some players, and we've been pretty critical on the shuffling around of the spine, which you predicted in the season preview. I actually went over our season preview, listened to it again at the end of last week, and we were pretty spot on with a lot of stuff we had to say. So for anyone interested, go back, look on our YouTube or on our Spotify or iTunes channels, and you'll see our season preview. It was the first thing we did as a Knighthood, episode number 1. And it's a 30-minute episode. It goes over the squad in comprehensive detail, and it goes through our thoughts on the squad, and the likelihood of us making the finals this year. So, and with some prediction as well for the season. So yeah, we were pretty spot on with a few things. So yeah, definitely go back and check that out. And look, it's round 26. We've got 2 rounds to go, James. We've got 2 games that we have to win to make the finals, and it's still it's definitely possible. We need the Dragons to lose 1 game out of 2, and most likely we will scrape into 8th spot. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, very excited. You know, at the start of the year, we were sort of hoping for a better, being further up the ladder. And it shouldn't have come to this, but it is what it is. And as much as I hate that term, we've landed where we are at the moment, and we've just got to play what's in front of us and hopefully get these 2 wins, and hopefully all the other stuff sorts us out, and we ended up scraping in.
Yeah, no doubt we should definitely be in a better position right now. I'd say another 2 or 3 extra wins on top of where we were or where we are. If O'Brien just sort of settled on a spine combination and stuck with it, I think our team would have performed a lot better, even just making that one change. And obviously, it's not always easy. You got Cogger as a new addition to the squad, and I guess the off season wasn't enough for him to determine the right combinations, and he experimented with that, and it just become, where are we up to now? Our 6th or 7th combination. So it's not a good sign that the coach hasn't been able to get the combination right. You would think that a good coach would be able to identify that and get it right.
Yeah, and he's sort of, in all honesty, it's almost like he's been a bit spoiled for options at times. It's like, okay, it's not working for 2 weeks, so I'll change it. And that was what I thought at the start of the year. It was sort of looking that way, a bit of shifting in the halves and stuff, and it's exactly what's happened. And hasn't been good for the team, and obviously the individuals. They need a bit of confidence from AOB to know that they're not going to be moved around constantly. I mean, obviously form, if your form sucks, then that's going to happen. But there's got to be some level of just sticking with it. So,
well, I think it's pretty clear to see now that O'Sullivan's come in here kind of mid-season, and it's pretty clear to see. Well, I've got a talking point section in tonight's podcast, so we'll have a chat briefly about an article that I saw in regards to the club's recruitment and retention staff. So it's pretty clear now that Hastings is on the outer. They're not playing Hastings. He doesn't look like he'll be considered again this year unless there's probably some major injuries. And even if there was, is he going to be played? I'm not 100% sure based on the way they're treating it at the moment. And yeah, it's definitely, I think overall though, I mean, we can talk about it a bit more on that talking point when we get into it, but ultimately I think the players have actually handled it really well. The instability within the side. We've had a pretty good run of injuries overall. And, I guess some of our tactics have been questionable, and the team selections have been questionable, but ultimately we do play a style of footy that it does hold up against the top teams. We haven't had any blowouts against the top sides this year, so we might not be too far off getting it right. That's kind of where my head's at the moment, and you can only see that Cogger does have. Look at the way he slotted into the team, and I'm not saying the first thing that needs to be said in regards to Cogger's performance, and I've got there all hail Jack Cogger. That's a bit of bit of cheek, but in all seriousness, he did that against a reserve grade team, and we beat a reserve grade side, semi reserve grade side. So we can't be too excited about that performance. Sure, there's good signs there, and I don't want to discredit the win, but the reality is we're here to really put it on the line when it comes to analysing the club and the team and the coaching performance, and ultimately that's a match that we should have won. And I believe if we had settles halves combinations, and I mean ultimately that's a game that if we were a little bit more settled, we would have probably put 50 on them, 50 plus.
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned you after the game that I thought we could have put 50 on them, but it just didn't happen. And we looked good in patches, but again, there was some stuff that was it was just a patchy performance, really. And we still put 36 on them. So
I think the edge defense of the Rabbits was terrible on both sides, and you could see that by Lucas. All he had to do to score his first try was step off his left foot, and good try, but it was pretty mediocre defense. And then Gay Guy did the same thing from a really good cutout pass from Cogger and a really good pickup off his ankles. So, look, we've got the talent there, we've got the strike there, and that's why we should be in the top 8 and potentially challenging for a top 4 position. We're not quite there, unfortunately. We thought we might be there this year, and obviously Adam O'Brien was brought to this club from the Melbourne Storm in 2020, and he was brought here to, to install the characteristics that you would expect to get from a life member of a Storm club. That's what he is, a life member, and he's won premierships. Just ask him, he'll tell you, because he said that in press conferences before. So he knows what winning looks like.
He just doesn't know what winning feels like a lot.
I don't know. Look, it's big difference between being an assistant coach to a head coach.
100%. And
it's not something that I think he's handled so well over his tenure. He's got 5 years on board and a winning strike rate of 45%. And he's been shown this year to have big holes in his game. And the club's been shown to be pretty inadequate when it comes to identifying, what they should do with the coach in terms of his contract. I mean, it's quite ludicrous that if the Knights make the top 12 this year, he's got his full 3 years in his new contract, and if they come 13th or worse, he only misses out on 1 season. I mean, that's crazy.
It's madness. But getting back to what you said earlier, the players have really, for better or worse, they've really, stuck to his plan and strategies and stuff. A lot of my criticism this year has got nothing to do with the players themselves. So, there's been some poor performances occasionally. You're going to get that, but a lot of the criticism has to fall on AOB and his poor choices, and it's just been a really poor season from him in general.
It has, but now we're 2 weeks out from the finals, and we've got a shot to make the top 8. And if we make the top 8, that's full credit to the players and credit to the coaching staff for pulling it through and making the top 8. And it's all going to come down to then, can we aim up and win a finals match and maybe 2? If you can win 2 finals matches, maybe you see yourself in a prelim. It's not looking likely at the moment with what we've shown so far. But, listening to the Billy Slater podcast yesterday, he said there's 3 things that side or side needs to basically win a grand final, and that's the first thing was ladder position. So you need to, be obviously probably somewhere around the top 4.
Yeah.
The next thing was the actual health of the squad. So you need to have a healthy roster, and then the third thing is you need to have momentum. So at the moment, we would say that our ladder position is we might not even make the top 8. We need the Dragons to lose one of their 2 matches, which is, in my opinion, is looking highly likely. And we did predict that on last week's podcast that the Sharks would touch them up, and they did. That's great. So look, in terms of ladder position, we're struggling, and if we do make the top 8, it'll be in 8th position, most likely a match against the Bulldogs, who have beat us twice this year and have really shown a high level of play and consistency, just like we did towards the end of last year. And then if you look at the health of our roster is actually not too bad overall. We don't have too many major injuries. I think Brad Best has been named this week, so he's back. Now, obviously, Frizzell and KPP won't be there this week, but I'd say they'd be there for finals. And we'll be looking at close to a pretty full strength roster if we make the finals, pending any injuries coming up in the next couple of weeks. And then the next thing is momentum. Now, maybe it started on Saturday, even to a certain extent in previous weeks. But maybe now, what I'm seeing from Jack Cogger is I'm seeing him talk. I'm seeing him get in Ponga's ear a bit and push him around a bit, which Phil Gould actually said it in his commentary, I think, after the match or during the match. Basically said that the halves need to tell Ponga what to do and point him around
where they want him.
Yeah, and I think Jack Cogger's starting to do that. You can see that he's starting to really become a bit more vocal on the field and with the players. And look, maybe it's just been a confidence thing with Jack Cogger, and maybe now with the backing of O'Brien, and knowing that his spot's kind of secure for the rest of the year. He knows that it's all on the line for him, and he's not. Maybe he's manning up, and he's just like thinking, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna have a crack here."
That's I mean, he had some of these nice touches on the weekend, where what I was expecting from him earlier in the season, where he plays quite direct, and he was doing that at the Panthers. And when at the start of the year, there wasn't a lot of that happening, and I found that sometimes our halves tend to be a bit sideways occasionally. And when I saw him at the Panthers the previous season, he was very, that's a very direct footy team, the Panthers. There's none of that, not much sideways stuff. But maybe it is a confidence thing, and it probably is. I think it's a lot of guys this year have struggled with that because they just haven't really known what the hell's going on at times.
Yeah. So when it comes down to the 3 things that takes, as Billy Slater says, to win a comp, ladder position, health of squad, and momentum. Maybe we are that third point. Maybe to start building a bit of momentum, and if we scratch into the 8, we never know what's possible. It'll be probably a pretty tough match, first up match. It could even be against the Panthers. Panthers or Bulldogs is looking likely at this stage. But obviously we've got to get there, so let's not focus on that too much. And I guess what we'll do from here, James, is we'll bring the slides up. And you can see there in our background, obviously you can't see it if you're on Spotify or iTunes. And just a shout out to Wigger Sun, you get a pretty loyal following there on the audios. So on your drive home or in the gym or, whatever you're doing in your part-time, you chuck it in. The audio quality is always pretty good on Spotify. It sounds really good, the podcast on the iTunes and Spotify. So thanks for listening. Obviously, you can't see the visual there, but we've got the flames up from last year's final against Canberra. So a bit of finals fever. And on Sunday this week, we're going to have probably a packed McDonald Domes or Marathon Stadium. And I'm really looking forward to this Sunday match, 2:00 on Sunday. Kalen Ponga said it yesterday in his press conference that, there's no better time to play footy. Most likely going to be a nice day. And where else would you want to be?
It's got that feel about it, hasn't it? Even up here, it's it's getting nice and warm, and it's Gus always says it. this time of year, there's just a feel about it. You get excited. Back in the day when I played footy, and obviously you played as well. Just this time of year, coming in the semis, you're pumped. You're excited about it, and hopefully the boys are pumped to win these last 2 games.
Yeah, good memories of that. Good memories, and you'll never kind of forget that feeling of being in the finals and playing footy in this time of year, August, September. It's pretty cool.
Loved it.
Rightio. So tonight, here's an overview of what we're going to get into. That was a pretty long intro from us, but some good insights there. And we'll have a quick look at the round 25 review. We'll run through our 3-2-1 update for the Knighted Player of the Year. We'll have a look at the NRL ladder and our ladder predictor and where that's panning out. Have a look at the season review to date. Have a look at the run home over the next couple of matches. There's a talking point that I want to quickly discuss, as I mentioned before. And then we'll have a look at the teams list for rounds 26. Have a look at our betting update. James, I snuck a betting on the week. I wasn't active on Twitter on the weekend. I needed a bit of solitude and time off social media. And I really wanted to sit down and concentrate on the game and making a good decision. So I'll show you what I did there. We actually won a bet, which was really, really cool. And then we'll go over our tips for this week's match against Titans. So just bear with me for a second here. We will run over now and have a look. So we've got the result, and the Knights, we beat the Bunnies 36-16 as predicted, and we ran in 6 tries to the Bunnies 3. We kicked 5 out of 6 conversions, so Rabbits got 2 out of 3. There was sin bins to Sewer and Murray, 1 each, and 1 penalty goal to Ponga. So we also led at halftime. I think it was
20-12, I think.
Yeah, 20-12. That's right, James. So, James, you've done a review. Why don't we just get into your final analysis and get cracking into that?
Yeah, I didn't go too in depth, but I'll obviously talk about the few points here. I thought it was a solid start by the Knights in the opening stages, but there were some alarming signs in defence on their line. In my opinion, you're just too passive, and the 2 tries that the Rabbitohs scored were pretty soft. We just were a bit off the pace there. So, in the beginning of the game, I was a bit worried. I was thinking, oh no, we're in a bit of strife here, particularly defensively, but we sort of overcame that, and the Rabbitohs didn't sort of trouble us too much. Next point, the Knights looked good in patches, but were still a bit clunky in attack. Once again, the team looked better with an energetic performance from Ponga. I just found that, watching him, a lot of the stuff, I said it last week, a lot of the energy from the team comes from him. And, he's the marquee player, and we want him to be playing well and playing with energy and wanting to be out there. And I feel like, he's been like that recently. Yeah. Next point, I thought we left a few points out there, but to get away with the victory in a danger game was the main priority. Final point, it wasn't a pretty win, but it was needed to continue to fight for the 8th position on the ladder, and that's pretty much where we find ourselves. We got the win. It wasn't pretty, but yeah, we're still in the fight.
Yeah, we are still in the fight. Well, let's get into the 3-2-1s. Who did you think the best players were? Who deserved the 3-2-1?
Yeah, I went Ponga for 3. I just thought again he was he had some great touches, and he was just our most dangerous player, I thought. And everything comes off the back of him, and energy wise, and just obviously he has that ability just to tear teams apart when he's on. 2 points, Dane Gagai. He was a bit ordinary against the Sharks, I thought, which is, he's had a really good season, but he got my 2 points, and he done some really good stuff. For Leo Thompson was great this week. He sucked against the Sharks. Sorry, Leo, I'm got to be honest there, but he really backed it up with a really good performance this week. His best performance of the year, I'd say. So it was really, really good to see him play that well.
Well, just to touch on that, James, there might be reason for that, because the article that I'm referring to is actually saying that Thompson's now going to take himself to the open market. So Basically, I think it was Dave Riccio. He wrote an article in the Australian that I've cited, and yeah, it's once again, I just think that the players are handling this uncertainty with the squad really well, and we saw that he did have a shocker against the Sharks in terms of his running meters. But I think he kind of, I don't know, he must have just thought to himself, I'm going to come out here and tear it up tonight, and that's what he did. And he's got a point from you, and he's got 2 from me. So if I have a look at my 3-2-1s, 3 to Gagai, thought, it's just hard to go past his wholehearted, approach to the game and his skill and his talent, and he pulled everything off. Some great try assist, great try. So he got 3 for me, and Thompson got 2 because he played to his potential, probably for the first match this year. And we need that through the middle, and without that, it would have made it a lot harder for players like Jack Cogger and Ponga, etc. So Cogger for me got 1. He was influential in a lot of the tries. And even though Ponga, he definitely has the highlights, I still think those 3 players for me were more important in terms of the building blocks of the foundations of that win. And I definitely agree, though, if Ponga is the center of this side, if he doesn't turn up and his attitude isn't 100% right, which I don't think it has been since Origin, I think it must be pretty difficult for him. He's sitting at 1.5 million a year for the next 2 seasons. I think he's at 1.2 at the moment. If you were sitting on 1.5 million a year and you're only playing half the season most of the time for the Knights, there'd be some players in the squad who would be thinking, I'm only making 300K, 400K. I'm struggling to get a contract. Daniel Safidi's getting shipped out of the club. Brayley's been tapped on the shoulder. I think maybe Elliott's been tapped on the shoulder. There's a number of Leo Thompson now is not happy. So there's a number of players there not happy. And I reckon there'd be some players there not happy with the fact that Ponga's on so much money. It's just human nature. It's just human nature, but overall, like I said, I think the players have pulled together pretty well and adhered to O'Brien's game plans. And, there's been some really good things happen this year too, like the emergence of Dylan Lucas, Sharp, just real good footy players. Like they're the next generation Newcastle juniors coming through the ranks. And they're just really good footy players. So, anyway, let's have a look at the ladder. Player of the year ladder. So, Ponga, Best, and Gaga are in 25. So, we've got a 3-way tie here, James.
Yeah, and when you actually think about it, those 3 guys are probably, when you look at our most influential players, like on paper, that's them, isn't it, really? So,
I'd also, Lucas is there on 4th as well, and he's
KPP.
He's pretty close. KPP hasn't had a vote for a long time, so he was right up there. Daniel Safidi on 17, Jacob Safidi on 15, Marju on 15, Frizzell on 15. So there you go. That's the ladder. There's a host of other players behind them, but at this stage, it's probably going to come down to the players there in the top 4, I'd say. Yeah, top 4. Either it's going to be Dylan Lucas, Dan Gagai, Bradman Best, or Kalen Ponga, who takes out their inaugural Knighthood Player of the Year for 2024, our first season. Let's have a look at the NRL ladder, James. So I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so I can see it. Now, all that really matters at the moment is the Knights know we're going to make the top 8. So let's focus on that. Now let me talk this through. So the Raiders are in 12th. If they win 2 matches and we win 2 matches, our for and against is a lot better than them, and they won't catch up to us. So we don't have to really worry about the Raiders too much. The Dolphins play the Broncos this week. Most likely the Broncos will beat them, and that will most likely rule out the Dolphins for the season. Now, they can also do the same thing to the Broncos. Now, whoever wins that match, assuming there's a winner and it's not a draw, we'd be hoping it's a draw because it'll knock them both out. But let's say there's a winner, and if we win on the weekend, they will be above us because of for and against. Now, the other team there, the Dragons. We need the Dragons to lose one of their last two games. So this week they play the Eels on a short backup. They played on Sunday. They're playing on Saturday at Combank Stadium, Parramatta. And I think Parramatta have shown enough signs in their last sort of 3-4 weeks to suggest that they can do the Dragons. And
I agree.
What are your thoughts on that? You agree?
Yeah, well, I watched the Eels, play the Broncos last weekend, and they were all over them in that first 15 to 20 minute period. They're up 16-0. They bombed it, but they played really energetic, upbeat footy in that opening. The Broncos couldn't go with them, and the Broncos were pretty ordinary. But I think, I reckon the Eels will do the Dragons this week, and that really helps us.
Let's hope they do. And if they don't, then what we got to look at is who they play next week. They play the Raiders. And the Raiders just beat the Panthers at home and kept their season alive. Now, like I said before, we don't probably have to worry about the Raiders too much. But if they can manage to beat the Roosters this week, they're still in contention for a final spot. And they'll be up against the Dragons to beat them for a final spot, pending whatever. And because our match is on a Sunday, they won't know, because I think the match when they play the Dragons is actually on a Saturday. So everything, all the chips are falling in place.
Yeah, it's a really intriguing sort of last couple of weeks, because there's so many things at play and what can happen. I hadn't really thought much of the Raiders, but obviously, Ricky's the king of getting his team up to spoil a party, isn't he? Like he knows how to do that. So
we did it to us in round one, didn't he? So
so he knows how to do that, and there's no reason why they can't jag a couple of victories at the end, or particularly against the Roosters. You'd expect the Roosters to win that, but they can definitely beat the.
You have to take into consideration the Melbourne Storm this week are resting 11 players, so they're going up there with their reserve grade team. Munster and Pappenhausen are playing because they need some match fitness. But what did the Roosters? They might turn up this week and think, if Melbourne are taking it a bit easy this week, we might have to take the foot off the pedal a little bit too.
Yeah, you never know, and that's a tough thing this time of year as well. Like mentally, if you're in that, you already got it in the bag. Really, a top 4 spot. Maybe they do take the foot off the pedal, and as a coach, you'd hope your team wouldn't do that, but it's just human nature that sometimes that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, well, top 4 is not guaranteed for them because the Bulldogs are there on 34, and they're on 36 with two other teams, Sharks and Panthers. So they need to win. I would say that the Roosters will turn up and beat the Raiders, but we saw it this time last year. The Raiders are not easy beats, and even if they do get done by the Roosters this week, you'd think the Raiders have got a pretty good shot to do the Dragons. If I had to pick out of those two teams, I'd be picking the Raiders, although it is a home match for the Dragons.
Yes.
And especially if the Dragons win this week against the Eels, they'll be pretty psyched to win that match. But at the same time, like you just said, Ricky's good at getting teams up, and he might want to go there and spoil the party, and that's what we'll be cheering for if that gets into that situation.
Absolutely. Nah, Sticky, you know what he's like. He loves that sort of stuff. He'll be trying to ruin it for the Dragons or any team.
Yeah. So
that's what he does.
There's a lot of variables there, but ultimately, we're a very good chance to make the top 8 here. We're now with the betting. We've come in from. I placed the bet on the Knights to make the top 8 2 weeks ago at 825. We've come into 550. The Broncos are around 480, and the next team is the Dragons at $1.50 or $1.60. So, yeah, it's on. It is on at the moment. If we win this week again, we're still going to win these 2 matches against the Titans and the Dolphins. So we'll get into that and we'll focus on that now. But yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good. And the other factor here that we need to consider is that the Broncos will play the Storm on a Thursday night in Brisbane in the final round. And that will be after the Storm have rested their players against the Cowboys. So once again, I'll reference Billy Slater. He mentioned that momentum is important for teams. And I think the last thing that the Storm are going to want to do is lose to the Broncos going into a final series. So I think they'll turn up, and in his words, go there all guns blazing. So I think we can pretty be confident if the Broncos beat the Dolphins this week, favourite to do. We can be confident that the Storm will do the Broncos and knock them out. And then really it's just going to come down to us beating the Dolphins. And depending, hopefully already the Para had done the Dragons. And then if that's the case, all we've got to do is beat the Dolphins and we're in. But we will also know the day before if we're in contention in that Dolphins match, because I think that match is on a Saturday, Dragons and Raiders. So we've got an exciting couple of weeks coming up to finish the season.
It's also going to be very it's going to affect the Dolphins, how they come to Newcastle as well. If they've lost to Brisbane the week before and they're not, they're done.
Yeah.
They're not going to be, they might, not turn up. So there could be that side of things.
I think they'll go there this week trying to, it's all or nothing really, I think, this week for either side. Yeah. And whoever wins will stay up and try and, stay in finals calculation. The other team will probably just give up. So my prediction is that the Broncos will beat the Dolphins this week. It'll be a hard-fought match, and then the Dolphins will come to Newcastle and we'll do them, because that's basically the end of their season, and we'll be playing in a packed stadium. And to get in the top 8. Most likely to get a spot in the top 8, just depending. I think it all comes down to the Dragons. So we got to death ride the Dragons. It's all going to plan. I mean, and that's our ladder predictor. James is there on the screen. So we did have the Dragons in 10th. I had the Knights at 8th, the Broncos in 9th, and the Dragons in 10th. And it's kind of looking like it's going that way. Or maybe the Dragons will be in the 9th and the Broncos will be in 10th. And you had the Dolphins in 8th and Knights in 9th and the Dragons in 10th. So your scenario could also play out there too, because if the Dolphins beat the Broncos and then they beat us, then they will be 8th.
Yeah, well, I actually, had this game against the Titans as a danger game. But I mean, the Titans have come off 2 pretty heavy losses, so and they look to have sort of given up. Really. I mean, they're a dangerous side. They're a quick team. They can score points, but I think if we get into a grind with them for a bit, they might just capitulate, and we might be able to put some points on them if we can overcome that early sort of bit of energy that they have.
I think you're 100% spot on there. And that I watched Kalen Ponga, Dane Gagai, and Dylan Lucas yesterday, their press conferences with the Knights. And one of the things that Gagai touched on was some tactical stuff. And it was basically saying that exactly what you just kind of said there is like, Ponga said they've got to start early, good energy. And then Gagai was saying, not give away cheap penalties inside their own half and control the ruck and watch the fast players. And he said their weaknesses out of like the fast players out of dummy half. So if they can, they're fully aware of that. And they're also fully aware that they need to win these next 2 games. So I think they're dialed in. I think they're thinking the right way, and they know where their weaknesses are, and then they're working on their strengths. So everything's going in the right direction here. I'm feeling quite bullish about where we're at, which is great. We just got to hope. Unfortunately, because we lost that match to the Sharks, if we didn't lose that match to the Sharks, I'd be feeling like we're pretty certain to make the finals. But you don't know. The Dragons could get up and win the next 2, and even we could win our next 2 and be looking awesome, and then just miss out by a touch, which would be devastating, really. Okay, so just a quick run over the 2024 pass or fail. We're up to round 20. That should say round 25. So, I didn't put the score in there. So we obviously won 36-16 versus Souths, and we get a smiley face there. It takes us now to 10 wins and 12 losses for the season at a 45% win record, which is the same win record overall for Adam O'Brien as a coach. And we rank our performances during the season. I've said that we've turned up 16 times and out of 22 matches, which gives us a 73% turn-up record, which isn't too bad. If we won 73% of our matches, James, what's that? I haven't worked that out. That's we could be on 16 wins, but we're on 10. So, we could say that we would have easily won another 3 matches if it wasn't for team tactics or team selections and refereeing performance. There's been some howlers for us in a couple of matches, in particular the Roosters, the Storm, and the Sharks. And Isn't that funny? They're all top 4 teams.
Well, in general,
when you think about it.
It's crazy. But in general, like, we've really given the top 4 teams a bit of a worry. We haven't got pumped by them. We beat the Storm. Storm are 6 points out clear. We beat them at home. Obviously, they didn't have Jerome Hughes, and I think Pappy was out, and maybe Munster was out. So we got them at a time, which is good. But
and Hughes is out as well.
Hughes, yeah. But we beat them. So not many teams have this year. So I think in general, when we haven't rocked up, it's been against teams that we probably should have beat. And
that's where I was saying, it's like, I think it's quite a positive sign that our brand of football does stack up against the better sides, and that is maybe it is a little bit more of a conservative style of play, but that's one thing Adam O'Brien has learned at Melbourne, and he's sticking to his guns. And you saw last year when they went on their run, when everything kind of goes to plan, it went well. So the key for O'Brien is really to get the right people around him, get the right assistant coaches. I don't think there's any chance now that we're going to see Brad Arthur. I think he's just signed a deal to stay over in England. So, I know that I think it's Green. I think he's leaving as an assistant. So he's still got the name passes me by, the English guy. I think he's the defensive coach at the moment. And I don't know if they've appointed anyone else for the attacking coach, but if he gets the right coaching staff around him and looks at his errors this year and his weaknesses and what decisions that he's made wrong and improves himself and gets the team, gets the roster right with O'Sullivan, I think there's enough signs to show that he's a good bloke and the players play for him. So, there's a chance that it can work out with O'Brien. I think a lot of that will be dependent on how we finish in the next couple of matches. The kind of taste in the mouth from the season, and how that sort of rolls into an off season with a lot of roster changes. And I've even seen today reports of maybe Gay Guy and Frizzell. They might not be extended past 2025, so that might be their last season that's at the club as well. So
they're both 33, 34, aren't they? They're around the 33 mark.
They're getting on, so I could potentially understand that. But I mean, these are heart and soul of our team. You'd think that they maybe extend for another year on top of 2025, but obviously they've fucked up the roster, the club. And look, that's a good segue into this here. So this was the article. This is just a headline from David Riccio. Basically says here, Leo Thompson, the Kiwi test prop, he's the latest night star considering leaving the club amongst a roster upheaval. And the little paragraph under that is Newcastle CEO Phil Gardner has gone through several heads of recruitment in the past 6 years, raising more questions over roster management at the Knights, who look set to miss out on finals footy and There's growing player unrest now. That to me looks very agenda driven. That piece of media. Look, he's saying here that we're set to miss out on finals footy. Well, and I would totally disagree with that based on our analysis, and that's not being biased either. That's just pure analysis. Obviously, we hope that we make it. But if you look at the betting odds, they also agree with what we're talking about as well. So that this is an agenda piece, and it's probably to rattle the cage a little bit amongst the club. So, but still, I think it's true. I mean, you can see that in Thompson's performances. So, overall, the club haven't really got recruitment right, and they've stuffed up, and I think they also stuffed up O'Brien's extension and contract. But as I kind of just touched on, it's not unfixable. So it's going to be a pretty important off season, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the recruitment pans out over the next off season, and what top 30 roster they end up bringing out next year.
Yeah. I think, that article there, amid growing player unrest, there may be, there's obviously some guys who are a bit got their nose out of joint behind the scenes. But if you're looking at the guys, they're obviously still playing and playing for the coach. They haven't sort of thrown in the towel.
I think to an extent. I think to an extent, but it's hard to disagree with it. I don't think they're not all in. It's not possible, I think, for the culture with these things going on. It's not possible for a team to be performing at their potential. That's why I've sided and basically said that I think the boys deserve a pat on the back, because I think regardless of that, they're doing pretty well. But it's not optimized team performance like a Melbourne Storm right now, is it? So I think that's basically where we're at right now. We should be pretty happy with the effort from the boys, regardless of what's going down. And this is a good example of what's going on. There's agendas in the media, and it's warranted. It's warranted because the club have stuffed up the roster. But there's a lot of positives too. Like I said, Fletcher Sharp, Dylan Lucas. There's some. There's been some good things.
Let's just hope that they can hang on to a Fletcher Sharp, and not let him.
I think they did with him. They got that right. I think they've extended him to 26 or something. So
yeah, excellent.
They jumped on him, and I think Lucas is there until in the next year. They got to re-sign him, and I think they'll get it right now with O'Sullivan. Now it's just obviously he's got to ruffle the feathers a bit because they haven't got it right, and he's good at his job. And Peter O'Sullivan. God. So I think he's basically recruited O'Sullivan. He's been strategic in that. That's a good move, and that's the type of move that we want to see, because that's the type of thing that can, if we get our squad right, that can make us a consistent top 4 challenger and premiership challenger, and that's all we ask for. We should be there. The Newcastle Knights have everything in their favour to do that in terms of the junior nursery and the financial stability of the club, etc. So
it's also the optics of it, though, as well. You want from the outside as well for things to look like they're top shelf and good for prospective players who you want people to want to come to the Knights. If you're looking for guys and they go, oh, that place is a bit of a basket case, I'm not going there. You want it to look like it's run well, and they do the right thing when it comes to roster stuff. Yeah.
Well, it's not looking too good at the moment, but the one thing that we probably won't see, we won't be seeing any big name players get signed to the Newcastle Knights, and we'll probably see a lot more of a younger squad next year, and where that leaves us, I don't know. We'll have to report on it. We'll have to keep up to date with the news and the squad and do what we do. That's what the Knighthood podcast is all about. But at the moment, we're in 2024, and we've still got 2 games to go in this season. So look, there we are, James. Half time. Let's get into a season sponsor message from MB Optimal Oral Care. MB Optimal Oral Care are our season sponsor of the Knighthood podcast. They have a range of zero plastic oral care products that are best for you and best for the planet. You can check out their full range of products via Chemist Warehouse online. Find the link in the description. Thanks, MB Optimal Oral Care, for sponsoring the Knighthood podcast for the 2024 season. If you're in Sydney, they're expanding into a range of different pharmacies, including Pricelines and Terry White's, mainly in the eastern suburbs and places. I think we got an update today. They're now in Mossman and Zetland, and they've got a big stake in Bondi Junction, so they're expanding, and they're also available on Chemist Warehouse online. So definitely check out the products. A range of eco-friendly oral care products that are best for you, best for the planet. Tongue scraping is important because it gets the gunk off your tongue, and that helps to set up a healthy mouth environment. And the rest of their range have really cool toothbrushes, which are eco-friendly, and soft bristle, which are better for the gums, and they're biodegradable. And the same thing for the floss picks. They create a lot of plastic waste. So these ones are made of silk and cornstarch, which dissolve into the atmosphere, into the environment. So they've also got this cool dental case as well you can store things away in. So jump onto Chemist Warehouse online and check out their range. So that's MBEMBI, one word, and OOC. So MB Optimal Oral Care OOC. Check it out on Chemist Warehouse today. MB. Let's get into the second part of the show, James.
All right.
So we're up to.
I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah, bring up your phone, and we'll write the slides up there, and we can go through the teams list.
All right. So for the Knights, in the backs, we've got Kalen Ponga. On the wings, we've got Fletcher Sharp and Greg Marziu. Dan Gagai and Bradman Best coming back, which is a huge in for us.
Beast is back.
Yeah, he's back, and I didn't actually think he'd be back this soon, but very, very good to see. In the halves, we have Jack Cogger and Phoenix Crossland, so unchanged from last week. For the Titans, we have Keanu Kinney at fullback, Lofi Khan Pereira, who's been killing it lately. Very exciting player on the wing. We've got Jojo Fafita on the other wing. Centers Brian Kelly and Philip Sami, with Jaden Campbell and Kieran Foran, the veteran, at halfback. So, what are your thoughts there on the back?
Well, they're fast, and they've got a lot of strike, and Kieran Foran, he's a good leader. But, they've dished up some pretty rubbish performances in the last couple of weeks. So, but as you alluded to earlier in the season, that this is going to be a danger game. And I just think with the momentum the Knights have, where the Titans are, it should be enough at home to really overcome the Titans. And I'm hoping that they can do a similar thing that they did to Souths in terms of the scoreline. I'd be leaning towards them doing that, but it's great to see Bradman Best back. And as I mentioned, I hope Jack Cogger's confidence continues to grow, and that combination of him and Crossland gets better. And now's the time to put it all together, isn't it? It's like a virtual mini semi-final, do or die match at home. So we line up pretty strong there. I think that's a pretty strong back seven for us, and I think also the Titans have got formidable opposition there for us as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't get any better. 2:00 on a Sunday at Marathon Stadium. Great weather, hopefully.
First of September, first day of spring.
Yeah, the guys will be up for it. They should be buzzing and just pumped for this game. I'm really looking forward to the Knights just going out there and just sort of playing with high energy and really putting the Titans out of commission early. We don't want them sort of sniffing around at this 60, 70 minute mark.
Yeah, 100%.
That's my hope. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Well, let's run through the forwards.
Yep. So for the Knights in the front row position, we've got Daniel Saifidi and Leo Thompson coming off the back of his best performance last week. Hooker Jaden Brayley has been pretty damn solid lately. Dylan Lucas comes into the second row, probably his favoured position, and he's been outstanding this year.
Yeah, good.
Brody Jones comes in as well. Very solid toiler. And the Kettle at lock, he's been there all year pretty much, hasn't he?
Yes, yeah.
For the Titans, we have Mo Fotuaika and Jamin Jolliffe in the front row. We've got Sam Verrills at hooker. We've got David Fafita and Bo Firma in the back row. And we've got Chris Randall at lock. What are your thoughts on the matchup there in the forwards?
Look, it's not a bad forward pack. Chris Randall's been going pretty good at 13 in that role. There's enough strike in this side to worry us, that's for sure. So, yeah, like I said, I think the forward momentum that we have and where the Titans are still don't. But on paper, there's definitely a good forward pack there to trouble us. But I would say that overall, I mean, it's a lot. Frizzell is a big loss. But having Lucas in the second row gives me a lot of confidence, and Elliott's been having a go, even though he's got to cut the errors out of his game. Though Elliott, just, he's all effort, but he's just got to cut out those errors. And he was shocking in the first 10 minutes last week. And but overall, I'd say I think we'll aim up and we can potentially dominate them through the middle as long as they stay disciplined and control the ruck. That's what the forwards are going to do, and run off the back fence and just keep going all day. And if they do that and they show enough intent early and get the Titans out of the match, they should do it pretty comfortably.
All right, the bench now. We have 14 Will Price. We got Matt Croker, Jack Hetherington. I thought was really good on the weekend.
He was,
and we got Thomas Cant at 17. And for the Titans, we have Josiah Pahulu, Isaac Liu, Aaron Clark, and Cleese Haas rounding out their bench. Yeah. So, yeah. I
don't mind the bench. On paper, these teams, they line up pretty toe-to-toe, pretty much toe-to-toe. But, obviously with I think we've got the upper hand. We've definitely got the better side. But if you turn up and you drop the ball and give away penalties and let the Titans in the match, it'll be pretty soon before you're behind by too many points and you won't be able to come back. So that's I think that's what this match comes down to. If we, like you said before, if we can get them into a grind early and make it tough, let them know they're in Newcastle in front of 30,000 people. Then then they might just
capitulate.
Capitulate. Let's hope so. What about the extended reserves?
Yep, extended reserves for the Knights. We've got Kyle McCarthy at 18, Sebastian Sewer, Jackson Hastings, David Armstrong, and Thomas Jenkins languishing in the 22 there. For the Titans, we've got Tanner Boyd, Keenan Palacia, Joe Stimson, Arama Howe, and Jalen DeGroot with Jared Sutton as the referee. What's our
So I don't know. I haven't done the analysis on the refs. I've just had enough of them. It doesn't matter who we get; they're all blank faces to me.
Fair enough.
It's absolute lottery. So to be honest, fuck the refs. Like, how bad are they going? And how much of a muppet is Annesley? He needs to be escorted from the building at NRL HQ. And I did hear Volandis is going to be doing a season review. So yeah, hopefully hit some heads a roll. But
hopefully.
I don't really want to bash up the refs and even give them a breath, because it's just been absolute rubbish. And we've been on, like I said, there's been 3 matches there this year against top 4 sides where the refs have they haven't helped us at all, have they, in those matches? So I don't think it's any coincidence that it's against top 4 sides.
And it just does your head in. It drains your energy. You can't do anything about it, and it's just frustrating how the refs can dictate.
Influence it. They can influence. Yeah. I made a comment earlier in the season. I identified it around the time of that Roosters match. I was really filthy then, and I probably need to pull it out of the archives on X. Made a comment in regards to this is really a big problem, and it's going to get worse. And the refereeing, that they basically they have too much influence over the matches and the results, and yeah, it's happened this year. It's got a lot worse, and it really is affecting results, and especially if you're having a punt, like you've got there's a third team there. It's a ref. Yeah, like let's for example, if you back the Warriors the other day against the Bulldogs, like they were right in the game, and the Bulldogs probably should have had 2 sin bins, and they didn't get the sin bins, and they ended up going on and winning the match. That the Warriors probably would have stuck in that match, and especially if they had a couple of sin bins for the Bulldogs, they probably would have lost. So, and then you go the other way around. If you look at the Manly game versus the Tigers, there was 3 sin bins there for Manly, and maybe one of them was warranted, but I think 2 weren't. And then if you look at that, do you think if those players weren't sin binned, I don't think they would have probably lost to the Tigers. They might have went on and won that game more comfortably because they were up by 16-0.
Yeah, but what are they looking at? When they looked at that one where there was 2 sets of high contact, and they sent the guy to the bin who had the most minimal contact, because he said medium contact with your bony arm. The other guy whacked him with his bloody shoulder and almost knocked him out, and he gets a free. Like they got no
shambles.
They got no idea. So the guy who'd done the most damage just gets to stay on the field. It's madness.
That's crazy.
Because because they didn't want to make the tough call of that. Both those guys should have been in the bin because they both done forceful high contact.
Look, man, we've got enough on our agenda to drive us crazy with some things going on internally with the Knights to worry, to go into the refs and let that kind of get to us. Fuck it. No, it's shambles. It's a shambles. We predicted it, and obviously, I think it's affected us against the top 4 sides. In 3 matches this year, where potentially we would have, we might have got a win or 2 against those sides in those matches, but I thought the ref had too much influence. Anyway, there's no point going on about that now. What's done is done, and we've got to win our next 2 matches. And let's get into the betting notes. So, as I mentioned, James, I needed a week away from the social media, a weekend away from it. So, I didn't notice you didn't send me over a bet, did you, before the match? I think you stayed out again this week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was initially I was thinking go for the Knights 1 to 12. I was thinking that, but I didn't end up pulling the trigger. So Mr. Conservative.
You would have lost because they won by more than 12, didn't they?
Yeah, I know. I didn't really think that was going to happen. So either way, but I'll be having a bet this week though.
So my bet was Knights minus 7.5 points during the match. It was about in 10 minutes into the match, and I watched it, and I saw the energy. All I wanted to see was energy from the Knights, and I just wanted to see how the game was flowing. And I think I placed a bet when it was 0-0, and then the Knights scored a try. But then the Souths, they came back and scored a couple of tries, and then I still felt confident, but it wasn't an easy ride. But I was confident, and it panned out. So as it turns out now, my live bets, I've been doing quite well. I'm at a 67% strike rate at the moment, 8 wins and 4 losses. So I'm really happy with that. That's high level punting at an average winning odds of $1.88. So I've got my eye in pretty well on the live bets. I'm on a bit of a winning streak there. And for the season, I'm at 61% head to head. So 19 wins, 12 losses at an average odds of $1.83, which is returning us a 12% return on investment. So happy with that. My aim is to get to 25% for the year, and if the Knights make the top 8, I'll be over 30 at this stage, which will be phenomenal. But yeah, it's all riding on that top 8 bet for me. But I think the last couple of weeks I've stacked up a couple of wins and added to the profit for the year, and it will be a profitable year. We've only got a couple of matches left. I won't do anything stupid. But this week I'll be looking to. I haven't made up my mind yet. I haven't thought about it in too much detail. And most likely I will wait until the final hour. I will be active on X this week, and I will make an announcement before the match in regards to a bet, whether it's going to be pre-match or during the match. But I'm quite excited about the fact that we've gone through a full season and we're performing at this level. And it's been a really hard season in terms of we touched on it there. There's been a few ref performances. Hasn't helped us out. It's been up and down with the team and been hard to sort of put your finger on the pulse of the Knights. And overall in the NRL, I think a lot of people are losing money this year. So we're performing above the market. And that's obviously why we're doing the show, because we think ultimately we're here to make profit, and we're here to analyze performance of the club and of the side, of the coaching staff, the team, and provide the most in-depth analysis and accurate analysis in the Knights market. And yeah, I don't think there's any rivals out there who can put those kind of runs on the board from any other podcast, which is good. And that's only our first season. We're going to get better and better. And James, you've basically broken even this year. You're the rookie. And I was thinking about it, actually. I think what you've done is you've basically learned a lesson. If you're a punter, a lot of people are losing money. And James, we've been through this process, and I've been trying to teach you a bit of a system approach. And that's what the United podcast is all about with betting. So you've been really conservative. You're at a sort of break-even point, but I think it's really important to be fearful of losing your money, and you've got to be probably 80% fearful of losing your money and 20% optimistic that you're going to make money, not the reverse. Because if you're 80% optimistic you're going to make money and 20% risk adverse, you're going to lose, especially when you're punting. So you're better off coming from a place where you're more conservative. And if you're doing that and being conservative and being patient, you actually give yourself a chance to make money. You definitely won't lose as much money if you lose. And that's basically where you're at the minute. So I think to finish the season, there's 2 matches left, and you've got to balance now the risk and reward. And you've either got to decide, do I just go through and break even for the season? But I mean, ultimately, if you're punting, the whole objective is not to entertain yourself, because that's what the betting companies want you to do, is to write it off as entertainment. I mean, ultimately, you want to actually make money and have a bit of fun, right? So you want to make you want to make the games exciting by betting on them and make a bit of money, not lose. So that's what we're going to try and do at the United podcast. If you want to take a systemized approach to betting, right now you'd be making a 12% profit on your investment so far this year, which is a pretty good return. And you'd be happy with that, especially if you're putting a decent amount of money on it. So where are you at, James? Like, what are you thinking now for the last couple of rounds? Where's your head at with it all?
Well, these were the 2 games that I was, to be honest, this was a danger game. But leading up to this, I was more, I've been conservative, because there were a few games where I thought earlier in the year where I was betting emotionally, I'd say, where I was like, okay. And then once I got on top of that, and I was like, nah, you can't do that. Just be, not conservative for conservative's sake, but be smart about it. So this whole year's been a massive learning curve for me, because, it's just, you go through a range of different emotions and how you're working things out. And But this week, to be honest, I'm thinking the Knights I think they'll win. It's just, I'm not sure how much they'll win by.
Let's have a look at the odds. So odds brought to you by Top Sport. If you're having a bet, have it with Top Sport, Toppy. Knights to win, $1.31 head to head. Titans to win, $3.45. Knights at the line are at -9.5 at $1.85. Knights 1 to 12, $2.17. Knights 13 plus at $3.30.
I hadn't actually had a look at the I mean the Knights to win. It's not a whole lot there, is it? Because I would have just picked them head to head, but there's not really a whole lot of
Well, you're not going to get value.
There's not much value there.
There's not much value because we are heavy favourites to win, and we probably should be. I think the odds are about right. The bookies have got this right. But in saying that, if you want to be conservative and you think the Knights are going to win, I mean, they most likely are going to win. So you just take the head-to-head, and even though it's not a big return, it's still a win, and you add it to the bank. And I think it's risky going 1 to 12 or 13 plus. It's hard to kind of really predict what's going to happen there. But I don't think the Titans are winning this match, and I think the Knights at the line -9.5 at $1.85. Yeah, I'd be probably leaning towards that. That's where the value is. But the question you got to ask yourself: are the Knights going to cover 9.5 points? They did it pretty well last week against Souths, but the Titans are a lot better side than what Souths are.
Yeah,
they're a first grade side with not a lot of injuries.
I think at this stage, I'm probably going to be, even though it's a bet, it's a conservative bet, and that's going the Knights to win head to head. $1.31, lock it in.
Okay.
$100.
Lock it in. Okay, great. James is back on board. So, look, even though it's a conservative bet, it should be a pretty well, nothing is certain, but you would think that that's going to land. So when it comes to my tips, I've got a bet on the Knights to make the top 8 at 8.25, announced 2 weeks ago. So if anyone else jumped on that, you'd be feeling okay about that right now, because I made that bet on the basically scenario that we would lose against the Sharks, and then I predicted that the Dragons would drop off, and the Knights, the way the ladder predictor figured out, I thought would slide into 8th. And right now, that's on track. Odds are now coming to $5.50, and we're virtually equal with the Broncos. It's out of us or the Broncos, but according to the bookies, to get ahead of the Dragons. The Dragons are in the box seat. Yeah. If they win their next 2 matches, they will make it. But yeah, serious doubts over them being able to win 2 matches in a row, especially after what they dished up there last week. Surely they've lost a lot of confidence to think that even if they make the finals and they come up against a decent team, that it's what's the point kind of thing. So,
and that was a derby game at Wynn Stadium. Like they got pumped by 40 or whatever. So
it'll be hard to get up from that.
I think the Eels, playing at Combang, they'll be 100% up for that, and they can score points when they're in a mood. So
we can only hope, James. We can only hope. So just so we're clear on it, if the Dragons lose on Saturday to the Eels, then if the Knights win their next 2 matches, they are most likely going to qualify for the finals, because the Broncos, they've got a final match against the Storm at home, and Storm will be all guns blazing, probably full strength, and I don't think they'll be losing that to the Broncos. They'll put them to sleep. And then it just comes down to us beating the Dolphins at home. And I think, it'll be all on the line, and we've got to win to make the finals, and we should win that match to get into the finals. And as we discussed before, James, it's probably likely that the Broncos will win against the Dolphins this week, which would mean the Dolphins are not really playing for much, and they're probably packing their bags to Bali. So we are in a good position. Looking quite good. Don't want to get excited just yet, but I'll be pretty excited if the Eels beat the Dragons this week. I'll be watching that game real closely.
Yeah, I'll be watching that one. I honestly think the Eels will. I'm confident the Eels will do them, to be honest.
Yeah,
Um,
they're
they'll learn.
definitely got a good chance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, it's going to wrap us up. We've got a couple of comments here. So Angelo's chiming in, mate. How you going, Angelo? Yeah. So finals are a shot, mate. We're just going to keep winning, 2 to go, and hopefully the Dragons and Broncos lose. So yeah, we've just kind of gone over that scenario, and thanks for chiming in again, mate. We'll be all cheering on the Dragons. The Eels this week against the Dragons, and I'm actually hoping the Broncos win and beat the Dolphins, because then that'll I think it makes the game for us a bit easier in Newcastle in that final round, and I'm pretty confident Melbourne will smash Brisbane. So I think that's the best case scenario for us, that Eels win this week, and Broncos win, and then we're looking pretty good, squeezing there for 8th position. Yeah, so thanks for supporting the show, mate. We appreciate it, and thanks for tuning in. You're our number 1 fan for the year, mate. So it's been good that you've been chiming in, and look, we haven't done a lot. Yeah, you've been killing it. We haven't done a lot to promote the show. We're not really trying to get out there and conquer the world right now. We wanted to just put a full season together of creating content and building a good reputation, based off being factual and having good takes and putting up our betting performance and showing that we know what we're talking about. So I think, James, we've achieved that, mate. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about where our first episode earlier in the year and where we are now, and a lot of the stuff we've said has come to fruition, really, when you think about it. We're doing well with the betting as well. We're not in the negative, which is good. Yeah, it's been a good it's been a roller coaster. It's been tough at times. It's been a very tough season, but I think we've learned a lot from this, and obviously it's not over yet, but heading into the next season will be a lot better, and just it's been a good process to go through.
It has. Yeah, we'll get bigger and better next year. That's for sure. But overall, I think we've been pretty consistent. We've turned up every week, and we've followed a consistent process, and we haven't we haven't fluffed around, and we have been pretty accurate, and we are making a profit, and it's good. It's good. I think for people who want to sort of have a serious take and a good overall analysis, it's pretty hard to go past the United podcast. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. And we'll do some quick shout outs now. So thanks again for the support. Please subscribe if you're watching, and give us a like, because that gets us out into the algorithm. We haven't been really doing any social media promotion too much. We haven't done any spent advertising or anything, or done too much networking. We're just sort of turning up every week and putting it out there and building a base. So thanks for that support. We'll get bigger and better as the years go on. Also, we are building a following on Spotify and iTunes. So shout out to everyone there. And if you want to tune in on those channels, audio quality is really good, and it's a different experience than watching it on YouTube. So you can do that. We encourage everyone, though, to watch on YouTube and tune in live every week at 7 p.m. For the full hour show. Sometimes it goes a little bit over. And look, we do have our social pages on Facebook and X. And like I said, we've established a base there, and we're active on a couple of the Knights groups, Knights supporters pages and stuff, to try and get it out there a little bit amongst some like-minded people. So chime in on Facebook. We put some updates on there in terms of updates, news updates, and we actually released our first article that I should touch on as well, James. How did you like the article that we wrote, the first one? We did the analysis last week's match.
Yeah, you sent it through to me. I was at work and I was reading it on my break, and it's really impressed with it. Very well written, I think I told you, and it was good stuff. And I looked to I think you mentioned something about maybe doing one, was it once a week, once a month?
I think I might do do it one. No, I might do it once a week and release it on a
Once a
Wednesday.
week?
So I released
Yep.
it last week on the Wednesday, and if you go over the assessment of that, the analysis of the match, it was pretty spot on, and the prediction was right. We won, and yeah, I mean the prediction was basically that we would win, regardless of there's some of the questionable team selections, and I said, even though we probably won't be 100% on point, we should be still too good for the Bunnies, and I was being conservative, saying we might win by 6 points, but we ended up blowing it out a little bit more than that, which is great. So yeah, we will write an article once a week and post it onto the social media. Every week might have a different topic, but at this point we'll stay focused on performance and analysis and providing predictions for the match. So far, first week went well. Tune in there on Facebook and on X Twitter. But yeah, James, any final thoughts before we tune out?
No, mate, it's been a really good night talking about not only last week's game, but the exciting times ahead with the final two games and all the things that happen around it, with all the, the other teams and the games that, all the pieces of the puzzle that need to fall into place for us to make the 8. But, mate, I'm just pumped, and it's got that feel about it this time of year. So bring on the weekend and hopefully bring on a night's victory. And hail Cogger.
Hail Cogger, the Messiah.
That's it.
Hopefully, yeah, well, there's his nickname, the Messiah. Cogger, Jack Cogger. Let's hope that he gets confident and he directs the team around, and let's hope we get what we wanted from Cogger, and that was a solid half. And maybe it just comes down to confidence, and maybe O'Brien's he saw something in Cogger and he brought him back, and maybe we can pat O'Brien on the back there for getting it right. It took him a season to get it right, but maybe he got it right at the end. And ultimately, if they make the 8 and they perform well in the finals, that's all that matters. And then it's been a rocky ride to get there, but that doesn't matter. So
certainly has. But it's been an interesting year. But no, look, Cogger should be really confident this week. He, obviously he would have enjoyed that win last week and how he played. Getting some really nice touches. So I expect him to be out there feeling good about himself and playing in front of a good big Knights crowd at Marathon, and just going for it and getting the Knights home.
Yeah, mate. Well said. Well, let's leave it on that note. Up the Knights, we get a chance to play the outro winning team song. So let's hope we hear it 2 more times this year, James. And like we got there in the background, we steam into the finals. And it won't be a home final this year, but let's hope we make the finals and put in a good show. But yeah, thanks for turning up every week, mate. It's been a long season, but I think this has been a pretty enjoyable show. And I'm excited to finish off this season. And it's, spring's in the air, mate. It's 1st of September on Sunday. Let's smash the Titans. Let's go. Fire up.
Let's go. Bring it on. I'll see you next week.
Bring it on. Let's go. Bye.
See you, mate.